Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dead Space 2. I hope there are those of you that did want me to do this, that wanted to see me do the rest of the Dead Space games. I figured, you know what, why not? Let's just go ahead and do it, I'm sure, I've actually had a discussion with a couple of other friends I play other games with, and some of them have told me they enjoy watching other people do horror games. And they were once asking me, hey, have you done any horror games on your channel? I'm like, well, I'm working on a Dead Space playthrough, and because they shared with me that they like watching other people do horror game playthroughs, and there are some other ones I've actually entertained the idea of doing, not just Dead Space, but like, I think Until Dawn was another one I've entertained because I did play that, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know. It's something I've thought about and considered. Like, there are some horror games I've entertained the idea of, but I don't know. Like, I guess it's something I would be open to considering. It's not like a no, absolutely not kind of thing with me. I talked a lot about this at the beginning of the previous playthrough of the original game. When it came to, like, my history with horror games and all that stuff, so... But that doesn't mean I don't want to hear from you guys when it comes to, like, what you would actually like to see me do. Now, keep in mind, they wouldn't necessarily be blind playthroughs. They're not probably what you would necessarily be wanting when it comes to watching people do horror game playthroughs. I do that a little differently here on my channel compared to other content creators. Some will do it blind and will have, the face cam so they can let you see when they get scared and they react and they're like, ah! I know there's tons of videos out there, and there's people that love to watch that and react to it. So that's not necessarily the case here. Like, some of you, I hope, were at least... I don't know, enjoying that. There were times where I wasn't necessarily getting scared when necromorphs show up. I would just be like, oh, hello, how are you? And then, fight them and all that. But anyways, Dead Space 2 is interesting looking back because there was actually a lot of interesting cross-promotion and such when it came to this game. This game, I mentioned how there was a movie that came out for the first game. Well, there was also a movie that came out for this game. When they were anticipating its release, they released a movie called Aftermath, which takes place in between, or rather, it's actually taking place between the first and second game, but most of the movie is basically them asking people who apparently survived a necromorph attack about some of the events that happened involving the necromorphs and such, and then we find out, oh, they found Isaac, and it sets up the second game, basically. I'll talk more about this when we actually play the game in terms of, like I'll talk about and reference certain things from the film, including a specific character that Isaac is going to encounter in this game, which is who is in that movie. There was also some other stuff as well. There was actually, like, a couple of other smaller games. This was back when they were also trying to really push and promote other platforms, especially console. There was actually an entire free game that you could get with Dead Space 2 if you got it on the PlayStation 3. It was another game, I believe it was called Dead Space Ignition. And this was something that they were doing where they were trying to get people to play other games, and if you retained save files to verify that you had played those games, you would get other bonuses in those games because, hey, you played the other games, here's a bonus for you. This is actually something I talked about, how you had to have a save file for Mass Effect 3 if you wanted to get a special N7 suit for Isaac in Dead Space 3. So there's other bonuses for this game if you played those other games. Now, that was on PlayStation 3, and the thing is, games like Ignition never came out on the PC. So, PC users were kind of just screwed and left out in the cold when it came to some of these bonuses and such. However, Thankfully, this is where modding comes into play for PC users. While it is true that you cannot play Ignition on the PC and have... So there are certain rooms in this game called conduit rooms, which you can only have unlocked and get access to if you played and beat the Ignition game, because it would read that you have a save file that showed, hey, you beat Ignition. Now the rooms are unlocked for you, which have extra bonuses. There's even a schematic for an extra suit called a hacker suit. Lol. Which you can get for Isaac in this game. However, like I said, that was on PlayStation exclusive. But there is a mod that I was able to figure out how to get it set up and working, where you can just straight up... It's essentially a hack, but it's basically also just changing the numbers on one of the files to unlock and open those doors. So now you can actually get access to the rooms to get the rewards that are in there, which include important things like nodes and other stuff. And like I said, a schematic for another suit, and yeah. However, it turns out because of this, there's also a bug. Now, I'm not using the other mod, which is essentially the way to fix this bug. So here's the bug that I found out. Apparently, if you use this mod and you get the hacker suit, it actually deletes and replaces one of the elite suits in this game, which is supposed to be a suit that I think you can get for beating this game on Zealot mode. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there is a difficulty here. Yeah, right here, Zealot. So, Zealot... Or actually, is it Hardcore? No, I think it's Zealot. But apparently, if you beat this game on Zealot, you get a special suit and a special weapon. It's the finger foam weapon, where Isaac goes bang, 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 pew, pew, pew. And it's like absurdly overpowered. It like basically annihilates anything in front of you. It's super cool and super funny, but you can only get it if you beat the game on Zealot. Now, there's also a suit that you get for doing this, but apparently there's a couple of bugs on PC where you actually cannot get these rewards, or it may bug out and not give you the rewards. In fact, if you get the hacker suit with this other mod, it deletes the suit that you get for being on Zealot. At least that's what I heard. So people were using this other mod, which is essentially just a save file with literally everything you can get in the game, all the suits and all the weapons, just included. And people were saying in the comments of the mod page, thank you for this. It allowed me to get the reward that I earned by beating Zealot legit, and it didn't give to me because of this bug, so thank you for that. I have not used that, because we're just going to do a straight-up regular run. This is not necessarily, like, I'll be doing this... I'm willing to do this as high as normal. I am tempted to do casual, but considering there's another thing I can do here to make it even easier myself, I'm tempted to go ahead and go with normal. But this is not going to be a survivalist or a Zealot. I've never touched Zealot. I'm more than likely never going to touch Zealot at all, ever. But there's actually a special save editor for Dead Space 2 specifically, not for the other Dead Space games, but specifically for Dead Space 2, where you can be able to use it to give yourself any number of nodes, any number of credits, any number of whatever you want in your inventory, health packs, ammo, you name it. You could even check it where you have infinite stasis and infinite ammo, and I was just like, wow. Okay. It's also worth noting that the trophies that this game had are apparently not available on PC, whether it be on the Steam version or the EA app version, they're just not there, which I just find kind of like, huh? Because I do remember them being there. I've played and beaten this game on PS3, and I remember the trophies being there. Also, there was a DLC for this game that came out, which was also on the PS3. It unfortunately is not here on the PC, so I cannot show you that DLC. Now, the DLC was basically us playing another character, which is basically, it's the same gameplay, and they're kind of fighting their way through to an area, I guess kind of like towards the beginning of this game. It was fun gameplay-wise, but story-wise, it's not really significant. I don't even remember what the story of that DLC was. Like, this is not like the Awakening DLC in 3, where it literally continues the story after the ending of that game, so. But anyways. before we get to the actual game, there's something I wanted to show you guys. This is something really cool and I really like. This is a special movie here in this game called Previously on Dead Space. And as you can see on the description there, it says, watch a movie that recaps the events on the Ishimura in Dead Space. And this is actually narrated by Dr. Kyne, by Keith. So, this is what I've talked about when I've talked about how I love when Keith does narration. He did it in Darksiders 2 as the Crowfather, and he gets to do it here as well. So, we got to hear him be Dr. Kyne in the first game, but this is like, if you want to get an idea of, like, I guess how much they valued Kyne as part of the story, especially also with Keith playing him, they didn't just bring him back to play Kyne in that Dead Space movie Downfall, but they also brought him back for this as well. It's only in this little Previously on Dead Space, but the fact that they wanted to bring him back to do this and that he did it, I think is actually really awesome. So, just a heads up, this is all we're doing in this part. It's just me talking and we're watching this movie, and then we'll actually continue the actual playthrough of the game in the next part. So if you want to see the actual beginning of the game and such, just jump to the next video. But if you want to see a cool, like, recap, and what's great is that this doesn't just talk about what happened in the first game, this gives you more of an actual, like, backstory when it comes to the world building. It gives you an idea as to why we have the planet crackers, why we have, like, you know, all this other stuff going on in the setting that we didn't really get in the first game other than in logs. But here, basically, we get a nice breakdown as to what's going on in the setting of Dead Space. So, in the classic tone and voice, Previously on Dead Space.
By the 25th century, Earth's resources were ravaged, consumed, exhausted. Desperate and on the verge of extinction, we cast out into the void of space and discovered rich new worlds waiting to be cracked open and stripped bare. All of Earth became devoted to this effort. The planet crackers were built, the USG Ishimura the first and most famous. Planet cracking became routine. Its spoils kept us alive. Eventually, greedy eyes fell upon Aegis 7. Restricted for centuries for reasons unknown, greed and corruption saw to the demise of caution. There, buried beneath the surface, an artifact, the red marker, long lost and long forgotten. The religion I once called my own had found its holy grail, the key to human immortality. Or so we thought. It did not bring salvation.
Witness the conviction of a true believer.
It brought doom. Marker bred insanity, murder, and chaos. It bred necromorphs. Those who escaped the planet fled to the safety of the orbiting Ishimura.
This is Shuttle CSO-4. The colony's overrun. We can't go back.
The scourge released upon Aegis 7 came with them. Within hours, the Ishimura went dark. The corporation dispatched a small repair crew to check on its investment.
Seems like everyone was trying to pack in a hurry.
Among the crew was an engineer, Isaac Clarke.
Isaac, it's me.
He had something special aboard the Ishimura.
I wish I could talk to you.
In the darkness, Isaac found death. And the red marker. It was not holy, it was not alien, it was man-made, and it could be used to stop the outbreak. Isaac also found Nicole.
Thank you, Isaac. I always believed in you.
Dead by her own hand, she was an apparition of the marker. Isaac engineered his escape. But everything else was destroyed. Three years later, he wakes in a hospital on Titan Station, an EarthGov metropolis on Saturn's largest moon. Isaac has survived, but his mind is no longer safe. For the marker changes all.
So, yeah. 3 years later. Now, what's interesting is that if you've played the remake, and you have seen the alternate ending, well, let's just say it kind of makes all of this perhaps make a bit more sense, or at least once we go through and you see what we discover as we play through this game. Needless to say, Isaac has both been a little busy, but also has been, well, let's just say the past 3 years, he's both been busy while also napping. You'll see and understand what I mean as we go through this. But yeah, we've gone from the far reaches of Aegis 7 to we're actually back in the Sol system. We're just near Saturn, which yeah. But if you thought the threat of the necromorphs and everything in the markers was over once he left the Ishimura and Aegis 7 behind, oh no. And as you saw also, his mind is not in a great place. As we saw at the very end of the previous game, there's definitely going to be moments where it's not just like, oh, necromorphs around. No. There's going to be times in this game where they really try to push the whole idea that Isaac at times just cannot trust what he sees because his own mind is now against him. There are going to be times where we're going to see a lot of what I guess I could describe as psychological horror. The idea of, like, sometimes we are seeing and dealing with things that are not actually there. He just thinks they're there or visually sees them there, but they're actually not. And it's part of the scariness aspect of this game, that it's not just necromorphs for us to shoot. No. We also have to just kind of like endure just kind of going through places, and it's just like, oh, okay, we're just kind of like having to endure. There's going to be a lot of flashing. I would say this. I don't think the game does a good enough job of this. It does a good job of this in the remake. I would say if any of you have possible issues with flashing lights and epilepsy, I probably should have given this warning before we watched that movie. If any of you have that issue, I would probably recommend not watching this. At times it actually can get to me and be a little disorienting, kind of like, it's one of the reasons why I wear Gunnar glasses when I play the games like this now with these kind of issues. And if there's an option, I like it when games provide you with an option to kind of like turn down or even turn off all the flashy lights to help deal with disorientation or even epilepsy for those who do have that. So this could be a game I would say avoid if you're wanting to not deal with that or not risk that happening. Because if I recall, there's quite a bit of flashy lights and such, like flashes and such, throughout this game. It can be extremely disorienting. But let's just say we are going to see Isaac try to come to terms with or even conclude the business that he dealt with back in Aegis 7, the Ishimura, as well as what happened involving Nicole. Because it continues to be one of the driving forces in Isaac's story, is him dealing with what happened with Nicole. Just because, I mean, that was pretty clear even at the end of the first game when there she was on the shuttle to scare him again, even though she actually wasn't there, but Just because the red marker was destroyed on Aegis 7 doesn't mean the apparition of Nicole was just gone from his mind. So, yeah. So I hope you guys are looking forward to this. Stay tuned when we start Dead Space 2.